We'll come standing, feet in closer than hip width. Take a moment to experience the weight in the soles of the feet. And see if we can get it even, front and back, side to side. And then add a bit of energy into the leg muscles, a feeling of the muscles hugging to the leg bones. And coming up through the legs into the hips, just sink the tailbone a little bit, and then lift the back up out of the hips. So hips drop down, I'm going to draw the spine up, and coming up the back body to the between the shoulders, up into the neck, lifting up at the back of the head. Okay, and then just follow back down the body, checking the tailbone back to the feet. We do something a little different here. So occasionally we do horizontal figure eights. So imagine that the center point is your ankles, and the whole body makes a little figure eight that originates in the ankle. So in effect, we can feel the weight move around the feet. And the pivot point is the ankles. So above the ankles, we're pretty much not bending anything. Okay, once we get a sense of that, and we come into the center, let's switch the direction for that figure eight. And then we'll just come back into the center when we're ready there. And we're going to take the feet wider apart so they're under the hips. So we're going to do a couple of these figure eights working up the body. And the next one will be at the hips. So putting the hand on the hips, and I'm going to take the hips through a figure eight. So the pivot is in the hip. So we get this different thing above the hip and below the hip. And then when you go through center, we just change our direction of travel. And then when we get to the center, let's pause there. And just bring the hands up to here. My hands now are at the bottom of my ribs, right? So thumbs back. And I'm going to see if I can get a figure eight coming out of the bottom of the ribs. So you'll see the hips kind of get dragged around. So it isn't really a clear joint there. And then when we come into the center, we're going to reverse the direction. Okay, and then we'll just come into the middle. Now we're going to do the shoulders. So a couple of places we can put the hands, right? We can just kind of touch here, probably not a bad place. And so this shoulder girdle structure, we want to see if we can make a figure eight. And it takes a little while to feel these, right? Because there's a lot of different muscles that have to start to coordinate together. And we can try for something big and for something small. And then when we go through the center, let's try going in the other direction here. Now the hips definitely get moved around, but we want to explore the hip movement just being minimal. You know, the hips are being nudged about because the shoulders are moving and they're ultimately connected. So I'm really trying to get something out of my shoulders. Okay, and let's come free of the shoulders, get those arms right. We'll let the arms come down. So the last one is the skull. And in a sense, it's another easy one because there's lots of joints between the, well, one big joint between the skull and the neck. So where's our pivot point? Where's that kind of locus? And see if we can make it the roof of the mouth, that's back of the palate. For ourselves, it doesn't have to be a fast movement. When we're ready, we're going to switch our direction. Okay, let's come neutral. And just maybe take the head side to side a couple of times. And then let's go back down, tension in the feet. They're in a bit from hip width. And I'm going to roll the weight to the outside. I'm going to roll it to the inside and bring the outside off the ground. I'll do that a couple of times. And then, you know, while we're doing this, the toes naturally pick up, right? So we'll have the toes lifted. And then we're going to end up with the feet rolled inward. So you can really feel the base of the big toes. Now put the other toes down on the mat and just have the big toes lifted. Excuse me, have the big toes lifted. So keeping the big toes lifted, bring up the right knee and just pause there for a moment. Yikes. And then we're going to take the right knee down, still keeping the big toes lifted. And then let's take up the left. Well, we just want to see where we are balance-wise here. We're going to put that down. Now put the toes down. Okay. And lift up the heels. The heels go down, lift up the toes. Okay, and then heels are down, just pause. Lift the big toes, press on the others. And let's just say we'll take our arms out. And then we'll bring up that right knee again. Okay, take it down. So we can keep the big toes up. See about bringing up the left. Okay, let's take it down. Now balance the weight in the feet, energize the legs, sink the tailbone, lengthen the spine. Take the fingertips on the low belly. And when you breathe in, run right up the center line, inhaling up. So we get the elbows up above the shoulders. Now hold the breath while you extend the arms. And breathing out just through the lips, making a longer exhale. Okay, our last one. Okay, so let's lift the big toes, take up the arms, and let's take that leg up. And now draw a figure eight. So pointed at the screen, knee going up and down, crossing over, going outward. And then pausing, step down. Again, we'll see if we can keep the big toes up. Up comes the knee. Let's see if we can make that figure eight. Okay, and then the knee goes down. Just rest the arms for a moment. We're going to do one or two more of these crazy balance things. So again, trying to do it with the big toes lifted, the arms out. Now just bend the right knee, take the foot behind. And then we won't draw a figure eight here, but we'll just wave the foot side to side. Okay, and then we're gonna pause there. We'll bring it out and up and then put it down. We're gonna do the same thing for the left. We lift the big toe, just bend the knee back, and then the foot goes side to side. Okay, and then neutral, knees forward, leg goes down. Okay, and then let's now get our feet a bit wider apart. So we're going to take a stance where the feet are wider than our shoulders, where it's comfortable for us. We turn the feet inward and bend the knees, and that kind of happens together. So where it's comfortable to turn the feet in, to bend the knees, and then being careful with the legs, we move the knees apart. So we can overdo that. We don't want to do that. And then we're not going to lift the big toe. In fact, we're going to do the opposite. We're just going to press a little weight at the big toe and the base of the big toe. We're going to sink the tailbone. And to help us find the hips, we'll put a hand front and back. We'll just go back and forward a couple of times. And we want to have that little tucking of the tailbone. So that's what we're really looking for. We're just trying to feel the difference where we've got a feeling of length and sort of flatness in the low back and some energy in the low belly. Okay, so hands at the base of the ribs, and this is just side to side. So once we get moving in the upper body, we want to keep the connection to the lower body. So there's still that little bit of tuck to the tailbone. And then left is last. And then we'll just take the arms out. And again, we'll go side to side to side. And we're getting some reach at the end of our travel. There's a bit of reach to the side. And then we'll come into the center. And we'll just put the fingertips up on the shoulders. And let's get a twisting motion. We'll send the right elbow forward. We'll keep this looking straight ahead. Left elbow goes back. And twisting. So we're keeping the gaze forward, the hips forward. Now, when the left comes forward, just pause there, extend the left arm. And then on that right arm, release the hand, point the fingers down and push the elbow up and back a bit. And now press the elbow away and the palm forward. And then we'll come out into the front and switch sides. Just traveling one side then the other. And we'll do a couple more, but check in with the legs, right? There's still some weight on the inner line of the foot, bit of opening at the knee without straining the joint, little tuck at the tailbone. Okay, now when the right one goes out, just pause there, and then bring the left one out. And they're both out in front now. And so just push forward, feel those shoulder blades move there. And when we inhale, just go wide and up, and press up and out, and then work with the neck here. We want to move the neck backwards and upwards. And when we inhale, let's go vertical. And lift the shoulders, sink the tailbone. And lift the shoulder blades and sink the tailbone. And when we exhale, we're going to go wide, and we're just going to swing forward a bit as we go wide. So we've got both hands down here, and then just soften. So we're going to do a little work with the hands or wrists, but we'll release the legs here. Lift the heels and straighten and swing the legs in and walk them in a bit, get a new place. And so we're just getting some simple swirls at the wrists. And then let's just go to massaging the fingers. So fingers go out long, they're long, and then they pull in, kind of like pulling taffy. Okay, then we'll just interlace the fingers, and one over then the other. So, we can go just simple back and forth. We started there, and now make it like a rolling motion, because the wrists have lots of range of motion, lots of different directions. So really tumbling around with the wrist, and then let the elbows get involved as well. Now, just pause for a sec. We'll do a couple more. When we interlace our fingers, we naturally do a certain interlacing. So in my case, there's the right hand has the bottom finger. I'm going to switch. And then I'm going to go back to where I began. And then again, I'm going to start the rolling, the tumbling. Okay, and then let's just pause there and just shake out the fingers. Okay, we're going to go back to our stance of the heels wider than the shoulders. Swing the heels out so the feet are turned in, bend the knees, open the knees a bit, activate the tailbone, the low belly, and see if you can add the inner thigh, excuse me, the inner thighs. If you just touch with the fingers, see if you can get some of these muscles, just have a little more firmness. So we get the legs set up. They really help keep the low body stable. I'm going to inhale up my arms. When I exhale, I'm going to reach to the right. And then I'm going to take the right arm down and the left arm up. And they're both vertical. So now I'm going to rotate the arms. So one palm faces down, left palm presses up. We push. And then with an inhale, come back to the center. Exhale, reaches to the other side. So that left arm down, that right arm up. We're basically just pushing straight down in the beginning, straight up and straight down. And then I'm going to adjust my head and neck by tucking the chin a little bit, lengthening the neck. And then I'll use an inhale to the center. Exhale is going to go over to the right. So the right arm comes down. Now it's going to come right in the center line. Left arm comes up. It's going to reach, it's straight, but it's reaching up and out. So it comes near the ear. And again, I want to adjust the neck. It's long, and I'm going to push down and push out without leaning forward. Very tempting to lean over a bit. Want to minimize that. And the in-breath is neutral. Out breath, give me the other side. Into the center line of the lower arm, up and over with the upper arm, pushing into the palms. And then check the core body. The tailbone is a little tucked. Back of the neck. Check the legs. And then inhale is going to release. And then when we exhale, let's reach to the right, right down, left up. So straight down through the right. Now here on the upper one, bend the elbow. And there's the fingertips now pointing down toward the ground. And I'm just going to gently push out to the right side, draw back, and push, draw back. I'm going to do one more. And then use the in-breath to neutral. Just take a moment to reconfigure. And then reach into the center, up and over, upper elbow bends, fingers face down. I'm going to push to the side. And one more push. And then in-breath to the center. Okay, just one more. Go to the right, come down with the right arm, up with the left. Now here, I'm going to stay really just close to my head, and I'm going to press the elbow up. And I'm going to try to, in a sense, lift the shoulder, lift the armpit. And then I'm going to undo, reaching left, left arm down. So I'm just bending that upper arm, and I'm pushing up at the elbow, the shoulder, as I press down. And then try to lengthen the spine. And then let's release. Okay, let's bring the arms down. Again, let's get out of this leg position. Lift the heels, straighten the legs, swing the heels in, walk the feet in. Maybe get the legs a little shake. Let's do something different for our legs. Okay, let's just go a bit wider. No, we won't do that. Let's do this. So I'll just show from the side, just so it's clear with the camera. So my right leg, I'm going to tap the toes in front. I'm going to touch the foot straight off to the side, in by the ankle, touching the ankle here, just above, straight back. Now to get that back heel down, I got to bend the front knee. I lean forward just a little bit. I tuck the tailbone, I lengthen the spine, push on that heel, and then return. So for the other side, the leg goes straight out, straight forward, straight to the side, in, back, and then front knee bends. I push in the heel, I lean forward just a tiny amount. I tuck the tailbone, keep the neck long. I'm going to step back. Okay, so we've all done this before. So it's forward, side, in, back, and down. So forward, side, in, back, and down. So we get to the right. Once we get into that final position, we'll add some work there. So once we're here, let's work with a beach ball. It's seasonal. So our chest is forward, we reach up, we catch the ball, And then keep the hands the same distance. Let the shoulders and elbows and wrists move just like you're holding that beach ball, and then carry it over towards the back leg. And then swing it low, keeping the hands the same distance apart as best we can, and forward and up in front, and then to the other side, and then down, and then again up in front, towards the other side again, down and up in front. Okay, around, last cycle. And then once we've done that last cycle, just come back to the beginning. Now we often just kind of toss it back. We won't do that today. Instead, we'll bend over and we'll touch it down onto the ground. So once I've let go of that ball, I'm going to be on my fingertips here. And then that right foot, I'm going to lift the back heel. So I've got my back heel lifted, and then I'm going to shift weight onto my fingertips, onto the front foot, and just lift the back leg up into the air. Now, keep the hips level, but really pick them up. Pick up the hips and make the inner body work to pick up the hips. And then bend the front knee more so you can put the back foot down. Okay, so we're going to get a twist out of this. And in order to get a twist, my left hand's going to come off the mat and it's going to touch my sacrum. And then I'm going to turn my chest and my gaze to the left. And then I'm going to look down at the ground. I'm going to bring my left fingertips down. I'm going to press on both feet. And then I'm going to lift that right heel and step up. Now bend the knees. Drop the head. Now we're going to come out of here by taking the hands up the legs, onto the legs just above the knees. And then when you get an exhale, round the back, tuck the chin, and just flex the knees. And then when you're ready for an inhale, just release the hands. Bring the hands right up through the center line of the body. And when they get up near the face, pull up the arms and shoulders. And really get a feeling at the end of reaching up, lifting up, and then gently press the hips forward. And then look forward. Exhale, bring the arms down. Okay, so we got to do that whole mess on the other side. So we start with the footwork. So left leg steps forward to the side, comes in at the ankle, goes behind. We bend the front knee so the back heel goes down. Because we're here for a while, it's always fair to fine tune the feet and feel powerful. Then we catch our beach ball. And when we're ready to move, we go towards the back leg and we swing low to come back forward and up over to the other side. And again, swing low to come forward. So there's one cycle. And we do another cycle. And then a third cycle. And then when we're out in front, we've done 3 cycles, we've got our ball up, and now we're going to put the ball down on the ground and come onto our fingertips. So we're going to lift that back heel and shift the weight forward. So there's more weight on the fingers, more weight on the front foot, and then we're going to lift the back leg. We're going to work internally by pushing the hips up. All of that zone of the body, the low back, the hips, all of it, from the inside, we lift it up. And then when we're ready, we bend the front knee more so we can get the back foot down and shift weight to the back foot. Now our right foot is forward. So the right hand comes off the mat and touches the sacrum. And then we look to the right and we turn the chest toward the right. Okay, and then to get out of here, we're going to look at the ground. We're going to take that right hand back on the ground, bend that right knee more, and then just step that left foot up beside the right with the knees bent, and just let the neck release. And when you're ready to come higher, run the hands up the legs, get the hands above the knees, and just pause with the hands above the knees. So here we kind of straighten the arms a bit. We get a nice curve to the back. And then when we want to come up the rest of the way, we use an inhale. Lead with the hands. Let the fingers float up as they get in front of the face. Let the gaze follow up with the hands. And then the arms and shoulders really reach up. The hips go forward. And we're going to look straight ahead before we bring the arms down. Okay, good. Okay, so let's do just one more standing thing. Going to keep the legs straight, but take them wider apart. Now, we want our hip sockets to be comfortable and have some movement, and just small changes to the distance in the legs based on our skeleton make a big difference. So all I'm doing here is kind of swinging my hips side to side and just seeing for myself, okay, that's working. There's nothing clunking or banging about in my hips. Doesn't feel unpleasant. So if it doesn't feel great, then try a slightly different distance between the feet. But once we have a position where, yeah, my hip sockets are moving, it's cool, I'm going to come still. I'm going to head down my right leg. So I'm going to put both hands on the leg, just slide the hands down. Let the neck release. Now, at some point, I got to breathe in. I'm going to stay low. And for the inhale, I'm going to lift my left arm and reach up and point up. And when I breathe out, I'm going to drop the head. So when I breathe in again, it's going to be the right arm that reaches up. And when I breathe out, I'm coming down. And I'm going to come up all the way when I inhale. Bring my hands onto my low belly once I'm up and just feel balance between the feet. When I'm ready to breathe out, I'm going to head down the right leg, the left leg. Let the head drop. And then at some point, I need an inhale. And now the right arm's going to come up. And I take an exhale, the right arm goes down. And then when I get an inhale, it's going to be the other arm. So it's the left arm reaching up. And coming down when I breathe out. And when I do breathe in, I'm going to come up the leg again onto the belly. Okay. So just walking the feet in a bit. And this is our last standing thing. We could, in theory, do this seated, but it means we kind of have to be kneeling, sitting on our heels to have enough height for the arm. So we'll do it standing. So there's my right arm. It's off to the side. I've bent the wrist. I've rotated the arm. And just gently back a bit from that midpoint. And we're going to get more energy from it in just a sec. I'm going to take my left hand on my breastbone, fingers spread around the collarbone. And now I can do a little more rotation with the right, pressing down without leaning over. In fact, I'm going to check my spine. So neck is long, tailbone dropped. And then from there, I'm just going to tip the whole skull over toward the left shoulder. And then still pressing out that right palm, you may start to feel some stretch in the right side. So my head's to the side, but now I'm going to rotate my skull so my face turns back toward the right. I don't want to tip my head or move my skull. I'm just going to move my eyes. I'm moving my eyes. My eyes are going to look for those left fingers. So just check in if you can maybe get a little more rotation comfortably, carefully from that palm, that arm. A little more length down the spine to the tailbone. And then let's soften the eyes. Let's rotate the head. And then lift the head. And release the right arm and the left hand. Now for the other side, again, I'll just kind of set up this left arm, place the right hand. And once I've got this hand in place, I can get maybe a little more rotation, moving back just a little more. And then we're going to monitor the spine, because as we reach back, it's possible both to twist and to kind of stick the tailbone back. So I want to be sensitive to those extraneous movements. So I'm going to reach up the back of the head, and then the whole head's going to tip over towards the right shoulder. And once I've got that amount of tip that I'm going to get, I'm going to rotate the face so it's going back toward the left. And then keeping things where they are, I'm going to move the eyes. And the eyes are going to look for those right fingers. And then again, I want to check the core body. There's that little tuck. Okay, now when I breathe in, I'm going to soften the eyes, move the head so the face is forward, and then bring the head up, and then relax the left arm, release the right arm, and just some gentle shoulder, it's kind of shaky movement through the shoulder, very easy. And then when we're ready to, we're going to come seated. I'm just going to use my other camera here. And then we've got always multiple ways to get down onto the ground. We always want it to be comfortable for us. But there's never any reason not to try a little bit of squatting. So especially since everybody goes camping, this is a key position for hanging out in the woods or hanging out in train stations in India. So there's two things here. One is the possibility of being on the heels. That doesn't always work. Sometimes the body's just too tired. And then, so the other possibility is to put the hands down and lift the heels up. And they're both truly useful places to develop in the body. So let's just play a little bit with this one. Now, what I can do here is immediately work with what's going on with the base of the big toes. I can shift a little of the weight toward the base of the big toe. And then for the knees, in this case, I'm going to squeeze the knees in a little bit onto the arms, but the arms are going to press out a little bit against the knees. And then tuck the tailbone. And we can be a little pronounced here. I'm going to tuck the tailbone and really push up the back of the waist. I'm going to tuck my chin and lift up in my neck. And it becomes quite vigorous. Really a core position here. Now squeeze the knees more and push the arms against the knees. Draw in the low belly. Lift up the neck. And then soften Let the hips sink down. And then we're going to come all the way down. So I'm just going to drop a hand back and a hand back. And weight in the hands lets me lower the hips down. And then the legs just go over to one side, over to the other. So it's always important we get this motion going, that we position the legs so the knees are comfortable. We're going to feel a little something in the knees, but we really want to minimize it by how we position the feet so they can be in further or out further, and the distance between them. And then how much we move the hip. And we want to move the hip as much as we need to. And getting the hip in motion here is a lot of what we're doing. This is a lot of massaging, a lot of working in the hip, into the low back. So when I get to either side, I'll call this the back hip. What's the front? It's closer to the camera. The hip closer to the camera lifts and presses a bit. So as we press a bit, we kind of naturally start to look around behind us. And just traveling smoothly side to side. Now, when we go to the right side, let's just pause at the right side. We'll stay a bit longer. So we do the same thing. You know, we've got the back hip, the left hip lifted. It's turned more. So now I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to put it on the ground. So before I do anything else, I just want to tuck my tailbone, lift up at the neck, at the back of the head, and then see about coming onto fingertips. Give the wrists a break, and then we get a bit more length. And when we're on fingertips, we can lift the armpits. Okay, now we're going to release out of here by walking the hands a bit further out. And I'm going to come onto my forearms. I'm nice and low here. And I'm going to just make a little space so I can look under my right shoulder. I'm going to move my left foot so I can see it under the shoulder. And I'm going to lift the foot up and down, keeping the left knee on the ground. I get a handful of those. After a handful, I'm going to lift the elbows again. I'm going to lift the arm, but I'm going to stay over here at the right side. I'm going to take my gaze over towards that left leg. I'm going to pick the leg up. Just pick it up and swing it across. And then swing it all the way back, bend the knee, put it down, look underneath and see it. We just need to see it. I'm going to pick it up and swing it again. And if we need to kind of play a bit with where the arms are positioned, where we've got our body positioned, we're going to do that. But basically, I'm looking under the shoulder. Oh, there's my left foot. And I swing it out in front, and I see it again out in front. Okay, so when I see it behind, I'm just going to pause there, leave it alone, rest the leg, push up. And now we got to remember how to get to the other side, right? Because we've really probably reworked the position of our legs. So the easiest thing in a sense is just to lean back, get the legs out, and just kind of flip them around. So if we begin at the beginning, I'm just going to put a hand on this right hip now. I'm going to lift and turn the hip. I'm going to take a twist looking over that left shoulder. And then I'm going to take the right hand and put it on the ground, somewhere at the left side. I'm going to come onto the fingertips of both hands. I'm going to tuck my tailbone, lift up at the back of the head, and then lift up in the armpit so I create length. So I'm just accentuating the twisting into different parts of the body here. And now for something completely different, I kind of soften off a little bit. I'm turned to the side, and I'm going to walk out the arms. I'm going to come onto my elbows. Now look under the left shoulder and maneuver the right foot so you can see it behind you, looking under the left shoulder. And then lift that right foot up and down off the ground, keeping the knee on the ground. Okay, and then when the foot goes down, leave it down, and then lift up the elbows. Okay, so now looking forward, right? So in a sense towards the camera, that's it, Andrew. So Andrew, if you can just rotate yourself some number of degrees a bit. Yeah, that's good. And just drop the knees over towards, there you go. So here, exactly, we look, see that leg, pick it up and just swing it forward and just let the body rebalance, right? And swing it back, bend the knee, put the leg down, put it down, and then look under the left shoulder again. There's that right leg. And then press up again, swing the leg up and whip it out, and then whip it back, put it down, see it behind. And we're just going to get a couple more of these. Okay, so last one, when the leg gets back, leave it there. Now press up the hands. Again, we got to get out of here. The legs are in a slightly different place. So I'm just going to get both hands back, kind of lean back, release my legs, maybe give them a bit of a shake. Okay. And then, now we get to go onto the back. So I'm going to get my knees basically set up how I'm going to use them. The feet are close, the knees are close. I'm just going to slip my hips closer to my heels, and then I'm going to work my way down onto my back. Now, once we're on the back, just tuck the tailbone a little bit. Feel the weight at the top of the hips. See if you can gently release the back of the waist down. And then move the back of the head away from the shoulders, tuck the chin a little bit. Okay, now we're going on to the side. So whichever side you pick to start with, pick the side that makes it easier for you to look at the camera, at the screen. So keeping the legs close and touching, just lightly press them together, tip the legs to that side and go all the way over onto that side of the body. Okay, so we got a top knee, we got a bottom knee. I'm going to move the bottom knee away from the hips and the top knee up a little so it's kind of in line with the hip. And that top foot going to end up in front of the bottom knee. Okay, so the bottom hand hooks onto the top leg. The top hand goes behind the head. I'm going to put my head down and comfortably look upward. So we do want to take care of the neck here, keep the neck comfortable. So you might end up having to do a couple of kind of little squirms and adjustments. That's normal. What I'm going to do is I want to see if I can let this top arm, the bent elbow, move away from me toward the ground. Now, the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to tuck my tailbone. I'm going to breathe my low belly into my low back. I'm going to gently turn the head a bit so I look at the elbow. I'm going to let all the weight of my head be on the palm of the hand. And then I'm going to add just a little energy to that top arm by very gently pressing that elbow out and down at the same time. Very simple, not trying to force anything. So be prepared just to press a little bit, then stop, release, relax, press a little more, and then release and look upward. Just release into this position. See what stretch you do get. Now I'm going to do something different. I'm going to take the top hand out from behind the head, put the head on the mat. This top hand now is going to reach down and it's going to reach for the bottom foot. And I'm going to see if I can grab hold of the bottom foot. And then this top hand is going to bring that top knee up closer to the chest and then slide down the shin and see if it can grab that top foot. So each hand has a foot or an ankle. So if the bottom hand did get hold of the top foot, I'm going to gently straighten out a bit on that top leg. And if the the top hand has the bottom foot, I'm just going to gently draw that foot up into the hip. So if we've been able to get hold of our feet or close to our feet, then the shoulders are in a different position. And I want to let the shoulders and shoulder blades release. And then the top hip, I'm going to very gently press it away from the top shoulder, just a little bit. Okay, now let's get out of here. So let go of the top leg, let the knee bend, let go of the bottom leg, let the foot move away. And then bring the legs on top of one another and take the weight onto the back. So bring the knees close, the feet in close. Lightly press the legs together. We're going to the other side. So we can either just go to the other side or we can, maneuver ourselves around so we got a good view. But when we're ready, we drop over to the other side with the knees staying touching if we can. And we get over onto that side. So the bottom knee moves away, the top knee moves up to hip height. And then the bottom arm grabs the top leg. The top arm, the elbow bends, the palm goes behind the head. So top arm, we just get the palm underneath the head on the top arm. So once we put the top hand behind the head, we just let the head rest on the hand, on the ground, and just release that weight there. And then very gently take the gaze toward that top elbow. See if you can soften that top shoulder and shoulder blade and kind of let it drop outward, downward. And then try adding just the smallest amount of effort to that elbow. And then soften the arm, just let it release. And then now we're going to switch position. Take the hand from behind the head. So that's the top hand. Reach down by the hip, see if you can grab the bottom foot. And then the bottom hand, that's the one in front, kind of draw that front knee up higher, slide the hand down the shin, see where you can grab. And then gently stretch out that top leg a bit and look upward. Soften the shoulders. And then release that bottom foot, release the top foot, let the knees come together again. And then we're going to make our way onto our back. And just pause on the back here, the feet close, the knees close. Add a little bit of tuck to the tailbone so we get the weight at the top of the hips. See if we can let the back of the waist sink down. Okay, we're going over to the side again. So we're going to go to the first side. So this time, let's bring the knees right off the ground. We're going to press the knees together, feet together. They move in so they're closer in than the hips toward the chest. And we get the legs there, then we roll to the side. This time, it's the bottom hand that goes behind the head. Now here we do need a bit of fiddling because we're going to look basically upward. So we got to fiddle about a bit so the neck is comfortable and that bottom shoulder and shoulder blade are comfortable. We're looking up. And then what we want to do, we have to use the legs now. We want to keep the knees on top of each other, the feet on top of each other. And so we get those adjustments. This time, the legs have to do it for themselves. Once I've done that, my top arm is free. I'm going to point at the ceiling. I'm going to bend the wrist. I'm going to rotate the whole arm and push up through the heel of the palm. So the upper arm's pushing up. The bottom hand, what it's doing is helping the neck stay long. So the chin is tucked, and I'm looking down the side of the body. Okay, this upper arm goes from pushing up, it's going to lower down just beside the ear, just off the ground. It's going to push out. I get this arm by my ear, I tuck the tailbone, and my top hip, I move away from the top armpit. I keep the chin tucked, and the gaze is going down the body. Okay, this upper arm is now opening outward about 45 degrees out, somewhere around there where it works. And as you do that, you need to check the legs and check the shoulders. You may find that the shoulders can now sink much closer to the ground. And pushing out the palm, keeping the chin tucked. Okay, now bring this top arm back vertical and then shift the weight so we're back on the side. So on the side here, we've got the hips one above the other. The shoulders are kind of one above the other. We're really shifted to the side. And then bend this top arm and put the palm on the ground just above the head. So we're touching the ground with the palm. It's just above the crown of the head. Okay, and just feel where things are. We want to see if we can get the spine lined up. Okay, now this is the one position where the eyes look up. So use the eyes without moving the head. Look for the eyebrows. And then open the mouth, stick the tongue out, and point the tip of the tongue at the navel. Okay, relax the tongue, relax the eyes. Release that top arm, and then let's roll onto the back. Okay, now let's go to the other side. So when we're ready to change sides, knees are touching, lift them off the ground, bring them in a little bit closer to the ribs than the hips, and then just drop the weight over, take the weight over to the side. So now it's the bottom arm that goes behind the head. So a little bit of fiddling to make sure the neck, the shoulder's comfortable. And then we have to work now with the knees and the hips, the legs, to keep the knees straight out from the hips and one above the other, to keep the hips one above the other. And then when you feel lined up, take the top arm and just take it up vertical. So bend the wrist, rotate the arm, push up with the heel of the hand. As you push up, lengthen the neck, tuck the chin. And then this top arm, lower down just above the ear. And push out through that palm. And then the top hip, just move it away from the armpit a little bit, straight away. And now this top arm, open it out to the side, about 45 degrees. And let the shoulder and shoulder blade release down as you push through the palm. Okay, we're going to move from here. We'll bring this arm up vertical again. Once it's vertical, adjust the body so we're now really are back on fully on the side. Hips one above the other, shoulders one above the other. Gaze off to the side, and then bend the elbow on that upper arm and put the palm down on the ground just above the head. Tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone. Take the gaze towards the eyebrows, and then open the mouth and point the tip of the tongue down towards the navel. And keep lengthening the neck and lengthening up the tailbone. And then relax the tongue and the eyes. Release that top arm, roll onto the back. And just pause with the knees bent for a moment, the feet flat. Let's work a final, just little motions with our hips, the back of our waist. We want to put just a little bit of effort there so that we can let the top of the hips sink downward. As we breathe out, let the belly sink downward. And just let the belly gently help sink the back of the waist into the mat. And then just let the knees fall wide. The knees fall open. Add a little tuck to the tailbone here. So again, the sacrum flattens. Check the back of the neck, back of the head. And then on the left leg, just put a bit more energy at the outside edge of the foot and push down through the foot, stretching out the leg, and then release the leg. On the right leg, a bit more energy at the outside edge of the foot, push down the leg and release. And then rest the arms on the mat. And just resting with the breathing. And we're going to move again in our fingers and toes through the ankles and the wrists. As we inhale, reach the arms overhead, stretch down the legs. And when we do breathe out, draw the legs up, take the hands around the knees, and just shift the weight side to side. And then travel over onto either side. And we'll just bring ourselves up.